and somebody who's had a lot of real world experience. Somebody who's been able to start things, cultivate them, and make them successful. Those are the kind of things that I think really are the qualities of a leader. And we've drank the Kool-Aid in this country and believe that only members of the political class with a certain pedigree can do those things without stopping to think that those are the very people who are driving us off the cliff. So I do believe that people are actually starting to wake up right now. And my hope is that people will simply open their ears, open their minds, listen very carefully to the solutions that are put forward. Ask God to give them wisdom and make the correct choices. And if that happens, we're going to be just fine as a nation, because our nation was designed in such a way that the people would be independent. And the people do have the power, but they have to exercise it. In 2012, 93 million Americans who could have voted did not vote. 30 million evangelicals did not vote. Can you imagine how easily we could have had a different situation than we have that's going on right now? But sometimes I think things happen because they're supposed to happen. And I actually think that Barack Obama's second term was a good thing. And I'll tell you why. It's like taking a cold fish and slapping you in the face with it. It wakes you up. And I think, without that, we would have just slowly slid into something that we didn't recognize, and then we would have said, how in the world did we get here? But there's been such a stark awakening. And I think that that's probably very beneficial for us. Well, my mother's dream was for us to be able to be good students. And both my brother and I were horrible students. And, she had not been able to achieve a good education. She certainly wanted that for us. She didn't know what to do, so she prayed and she asked God to give her the wisdom. And that's the wonderful thing about God. You don't have to have a PhD to talk to him. You just have to have faith. And she had faith that God could guide her, and he did. At least in her opinion. My brother and I didn't think it was very good at all. Turning off the TV and making us read books and write book reports and submit them to her, even though she couldn't read them. I mean, we were not at all happy about that. But an interesting thing happened. Even though we were desperately poor, I quickly discovered that I could escape the world of poverty between the pages of those books. I could go anywhere, I could be anybody, I could do anything. I began to know stuff that nobody else knew. I wasn't the first one to sit down and study because I was always looking at words. So I knew how to spell. You can always tell a reader, by the way, because they know how to spell. And, you learn grammar and syntax. You learn how to express yourself. You gain confidence. All of those things begin to happen. And then at school, particularly when I was in high school, and I was in a particularly bad high school where not a lot of good academic things occurred. And the teachers frequently did not complete their lesson because they spent all the time disciplining people. Well, recognizing with all my reading that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you, I said, it's my responsibility to get an education. So I would go back after school and talk to the teachers and say, what were you planning on teaching today? And they would be delighted to see me coming because they knew that somebody would benefit from what they had done. And I got a lot of extra tutoring, and it made a huge difference. And I was able to win a scholarship to Yale and go on to the University of Michigan for medical school. And, everything just kind of worked out. But it required a lot of hard work and not submitting to those people who wanted you to feel that, like you were a victim, like there was something in the environment that was going to keep you from achieving. This is something that we have got to bring back to this nation. It's absolutely critical that we bring back the can-do attitude as opposed to the what can you do for me attitude, because that's really what propelled us to the pinnacle so quickly. You know, I think about the fact that this is the technological age that we live in right now. And yet, 20 to 30% of people who enter high school in our country do not graduate. Now that wasn't so bad during the agricultural age or the industrial age when all you needed was a strong back and a willingness to work. It is a huge problem in the technological and the information age. And particularly at a time when we are competing on a world stage. We have to compete with India and China, who have a combined population of more than 2.5 billion people. We only have 330 million. So we really can't afford to waste any of our people. We need to develop all of them, which means, we need to do something about school system. We need to have choice for all of our students because we know that homeschoolers do best, private schoolers next best, charter schoolers next best, public schoolers least. So why do we confine certain people to an environment where they're not likely to get a good education? We need to open it up and make choice available. And I don't understand why our current president is against school choice and against vouchers. He sends his children to the very best schools, and he knows that there are failing public schools and he doesn't want the other kids to go to. Well, what would be the rationale for that? I would love it if one of the reporters would ask him that question sometime, but they never ask him any hardball questions for some strange reason. But it's one of the reasons that we